And we are live. So this is Bill Brock, and today on my little podcast, I've got two really special people, Kim Moser and Jennifer Taylor from Booze and Brews. No, Booze and Bourbon, right?
Close. We
Bruise
can
sounds
throw a
good, too.
bruising in there if you want us
Yeah.
to,
Yeah, Booze, Brews, and Bourbon. There you go. That sounds pretty good.
but well, thank you so much for having us on the show.
Yeah. So I don't even know if this is a show really. Basically, this is just my way of like killing time during the lockdown because I have been going absolutely stir crazy. Like it's been nuts, And I'm not back to work yet. Are you guys back to work?
Partially. Like I'm like part-timey right now, but I teach boot camps outside, so we can do it
Boot
anyway.
camps. Are you like
Yeah.
military or what?
No, just just general health and fitness.
Nice. Well, that's pretty awesome.
Yeah.
So,
I haven't stopped working. In fact, everything's gotten busier for me. Like the podcast has gotten busier and I've just been pulled in so many different directions. So I would like a little break. It would be nice.
yeah. So what do you do for a living there, Kim? Or just this?
Well, I sell forklifts. That's
cool,
my
dude.
real job. And then the whole podcast is basically like a job too. It just doesn't pay nearly as well as my real job. And then I also am the production coordinator for a TV show that Jen and I are going to be filming here very soon, which is called Haunted, and that is on Eastlink TV, which is a Canadian network.
Oh, well, congratulations, you two. That's
Thanks.
Great. That's awesome.
Thanks.
Yeah. So, about the podcast. How long have you been doing this? Like, how long have you been doing the podcast?
It's been over a year. Well, I think we're at episode 74?
We're recording for 77 now. So
Oh, okay. My bad. Yes.
I think it's been about a year and a half that we've been doing it.
Mm-hmm.
Wow, that's crazy. So, how did you two meet?
Jen, I'll let you tell this story.
Well, I was a supervisor at a place called Shaw Brick. We sell or we sold concrete products, brick, block, that kind of thing. And I hired the lovely Kim because she was just such a great candidate for a position we had open. So I hired her to work with me and we became besties and
Nice.
started talking about all of our weird obsessions and things that we like, don't like. One of those being ghost stories, which kind of like, obviously carried on to our podcast now. So
Right.
Yeah, it's really funny because Jen and I would take breaks and we would talk about, did you see this episode last night? And oh my gosh, we need to go see this scary movie. And Jen and I would always be like, wouldn't it be so cool if we had our own like ghost hunting show? And then we put it aside because we're like, we know nobody in TV. Like we couldn't do this. But it kept coming up like year after year after year. And like, 10 years later, I'm like, Jen, do you want to do maybe a podcast? Because I think we're capable of that. And she's like, yes, let's do it. So we started doing that. And then within a couple of months, we were picked up by a network out of the US called the ABV Network. And it's all bourbon related shows. So they kind of opened the door for us. They've been really good to us. And we do cross promotions with them and everything too. So yeah, we're part of the ABV Network family with our podcast. And we're the only paranormal show that we have. So we have to still incorporate that bourbon in there to be part of the fam.
Yeah.
That's great. That's awesome. Is like the paranormal all that you guys look into?
Pretty much.
Are you fascinated with anything like UFOs or anything like that as well?
We've done that too. We've done we touched a little bit on UFOs and
Yeah, you
we've
guys are
talked
like in a
about it
hot
ourselves,
spot.
but
You're in like a hot spot. Like Maine and Nova Scotia are like legit hot spots for UFO
Yes.
phenomenon.
The Shag Harbor incident.
yeah.
Oh, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, for sure. It's really funny that you're talking about that too, because like I know that you are kind of into cryptids and stuff, and so are we, but we just haven't done a whole lot of episodes for it. So we're going to have you on the show and we're going to talk about cryptids and that crazy Boston Triangle that's going on down there.
Yeah. It's the Bridgewater Triangle and like
The Bridgewater Triangle.
Yeah. So like, there's all kinds of crazy stuff that's happened there. I mean, everything from like ghosts to cryptid stuff. I mean, it's all like right there, and even like alien stuff, and that's what I wanted to ask you guys. What do you think about the whole alien thing tying into the paranormal thing? Because I hear a lot of people talking about this. Even Andrea Perrin has started mentioning this, that it might be kind of tied together. What do you think of that?
Oh, that's a big question. I mean, sort of, yes, but still like two completely different things, I would say, like on my end. But they definitely tie into each other, obviously, because you have a broad range of people that either A, believe or don't at all, or might be in between. Um, but I feel like, and this could be taking another direction, the spirit world probably obviously sees more than the human world, so they probably know a lot more about aliens and UFOs than we do because
Yeah.
So
they're
you think they're
a
conscious
little
to
bit.
it? So
I think so. I think that the spirit world probably knows a lot more than we do about what's going on, like in our outer space everywhere. Like we get little glimpses here and there, and as we were just saying, like we're kind of a hot spot, so there's been lots of sightings and that kind of thing. But obviously, like spirit world, they definitely get to see a lot more than we do on that end.
that's
Yeah, that's a really
interesting.
good point.
That's a great concept because, like, if you think about that, once you pass away, you kind of become the all knowing. You know what I mean? Like,
Mm-hmm.
you become like enlightened, sort of. And yeah, there's been all kinds of people on these journeys of enlightenment, like Aleister Crowley, and when he would go on these journeys of enlightenment, he would experience otherworldly things. So who knows? Maybe you're onto something. It's a cool concept. So what are you drinking there, by the way?
As
Little
I'm just
afternoon
singing
dram.
away. A little bourbon,
A little
just
bourbon. Yeah,
to stick with the our usual thing.
you got to stay with the theme.
I don't even know what I put in there. Actually, it's Eagle Rare, so I'm having a little Eagle Rare, I think, today.
Nicely
Nice.
done, Jen. Nicely done.
Thanks.
To answer your question in regards to aliens and the paranormal, I feel like as much as I do believe both, I am more inclined to stay with the ghostly apparitions than I am with aliens. And it's not that there isn't enough evidence out there for me to believe, but I kind of feel a little bit more comforted by the spirits, knowing that they were at like one point human, right? But it's interesting too because our film director, Paul Kimball, who is the creator of the show that we're going to be filming here soon, he started doing UFO documentaries, and he's an author of a book, and it starts to tie in the two about the different dimensions and how they are interdimensional, which also I believe cryptids are interdimensional. So sure, why not? They can both hang out in the same realms.
That's interesting. So that brings me to a question: like, what do you think that we're dealing with when it comes to the paranormal? Like that's definitely a good question for both of you guys. Like, I don't know. First off, I want to know. I guess, are you investigators? Have you investigated before?
We've done some.
We like to think we're investigators. I mean,
We haven't like made it I guess a big enough point to be like, yes, we are investigators. We're podcasters, we're storytellers, right? But we have definitely done investigations. We have a friend who's a medium. We've brought her along as well. And typically we've gotten a lot of evidence. We went to a graveyard that had one tombstone that had like 7 children that all died within the same year. And that seemed to be really active. We were getting like the kids' names coming through on a voice recorder and stuff. But we're going to be diving in a lot more to our investigative tendencies for the show that we're doing. Yeah.
Nice. So Jen,
I got myself really good. I just got myself really good Ghostbuster outfit to wear, so I feel like that's going to help the investigation a lot. I mean, like the vacuum packs, really, you need to have that. So
you are the trigger object.
She is. Oh my God, that's exactly
I like to
what
really
she
bring
is.
them out. The trigger object. Yes, that is me.
That's you. You need that tattoo. I am the trigger.
So I have a lot of questionable tattoos, but that would definitely be another one. So yeah, that.
Nice. So what do you guys think these things are? What are we dealing with out here in the paranormal world?
Well, Kim, do you want to go or do you want me to go?
Well, I definitely think it's like masses of energy. And I think for the most part, they're human. And for the other portion of it, whether you're talking about demonic entities or what it is that you're talking about, maybe they were never human. But I feel like in most cases, we're dealing with people who have passed. And I think there's a lot that we don't know. When I first really had my solid experience with what happened to me and when my grandmother passed away, it was definitely confirmation that there was, in fact, something that happened to us after we died. I don't know how it works, but when I woke up from this crazy dream, I knew that she had passed, and I could see her, I could smell her, and I could literally feel her, just like my senses were all going. And when she told me that she was going, it was like she was leaving this party. And yeah, when I woke up, my mom called to tell me that my grandmother had passed away. So that was definitely confirmation for me. I don't know how it works. I know that it's energy, and that's really all I know.
Yeah.
And
What
I
do you
think
Jen?
we both kind of had our own situations happen with people in our families that had passed on that like we encountered at some point and had some sort of situation happen where that kind of made us believe a little bit more. And those are the ones that you like because obviously it's a positive thing and you don't feel threatened by it. But then we've also each had situations, or I still have an ongoing situation in my house right now where you don't know the people and they're just, I guess, stuck and they just want to be a part of your day-to-day life and like to toy with you, turn your lights on and off, just
Does that freak you out? Does that scare you at all?
keep me entertained. At first it kind of did, but now I've just grown to know that they're just here because I bought their house after they both passed away and here we all are. So
did you know this before you bought the house? Were you like, oh yeah, cool?
no, I mean, I knew
here.
when I bought it, it was a couple that had recently passed. Like they both died within a week of each other. So the son had sold the place just because he already had his own home and didn't obviously want another one. So I got it for a good deal and never noticed I had an issue until I got a puppy. And for the first, I don't even remember how long it was, like 6 months of the puppy's life, he squealed and barked in the middle of the night, pretty much the same time every night for like literally, I don't know how many months that was, Kim, but like it felt like a really long time of me not being able to sleep because this dog would constantly bark at stuff in my room that I obviously couldn't see, which then made me a little crazy. So, yeah, that was
so. Bill, there's
an issue.
There's one thing that Jen is leaving out as far as details, and that is the fact that she has every single one of their old mirrors up on her walls. Do you think that's a problem?
Nice.
That's creepy. That's creepy. Yeah. Yeah.
But they're really pretty. I mean,
so are the spirits that live in them.
I didn't know that was a thing. I didn't know that it was a thing. So I left them up. I was like, well, that saves me from going out and getting more mirrors. So like, I like these ones. I'll just keep them. But apparently, that could also be why they're still here. So
yeah, it's a thing. Like they people believe that spirits can live in mirrors for like 30 days after like the person who owned the mirror passes. So like, I assume they've gotten their eviction notice and they've been asked to leave by now. It's been over 30 days, so like hopefully it's all safe. And it's okay.
I mean, I still, I up until last year was still getting mail for them. So
that's creepy.
That's a little weird. And they left a lot of like random things outside in the shed and stuff, which I did throw out most of it. But, maybe I'm just one of those weird people that likes to like just test it out a little bit. So I kept mirrors and kept a couple of their other belongings here. And we're just all hanging out here together. So
just one big happy family. I love it. Yeah. All right. So, one of the things I love about being like on all these podcasts and stuff is I get to learn a lot. I get to talk to a lot of different people. I get to learn a lot of different perspectives when it comes to all of this. Has your perspective changed at all from the time you started this podcast till where you are now?
I think it's taught me a lot. I don't think it's really changed my perspective at all, though. I think maybe I have a better understanding. And what I think is really cool about all this is there's definitely a paranormal community where like it's like a safe place to talk about your own experiences and things. Yeah. So I find it really interesting when we get a lot of anonymous mail. Like we don't often name our listeners for listener stories, but when they come through and they tell us what's been going on in their lives, I'm like, okay, maybe we are normal. Maybe this really is a thing. So I think that's what I've enjoyed the most about having the podcast.
Yeah, we're all pretty normal. What do you think, Jen? Do you feel the same way?
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely nice to know that me and Kim kind of used to always think we were the weirdos that had all our obsessions with ghost stories, and now it's good to know that there's many more people out there like us that really like to talk about it, share stories. So
Yeah.
comforting.
I found out how big our community really was when we did the Conjuring House thing. There were so many people in the chat just like becoming friends. It was the coolest thing to see.
Yeah, it really, and it's still going on. I'm like blown away every time I log into Facebook and there's new posts in that seance room there. I'm like, wow, these people are amazing.
Yeah, absolutely. It's been really refreshing and a positive impact because a lot of people say there's drama in the paranormal world, but honestly, I haven't seen anything but love. You know, like it's been great. It's been absolutely awesome, and it's the community that's wrapped around this whole thing.
Definitely. Definitely.
Yeah. So you guys been doing this podcast for what, a year or so?
Yeah, about a year and a half.
Year and a half.
Do you plan on continuing to do it?
Oh, yes.
I think so. I mean, until we run out of stories, maybe. But
I only asked because you're starting to film this TV thing. Like, do you think that's going to just kind of overshadow this?
I don't think so. I think that I would have this like great sense of not pissing people off, but letting them down, because I feel like we've worked really hard to get the following that we have right now. And we're really interactive with a lot of our listeners and our patrons. And I feel like they'd be really disappointed if they didn't have something to listen to on Friday morning.
It's true. We just got a good little fan base going here. We can't let the people down.
Nice.
We're here for the people.
You're here for the people. Yeah, I kind of feel that way too. I've got a Patreon going, and I definitely have a bunch of people that just kind of watch. You know, and it's like I kind of do this for them, but I got to admit, I do it for myself too. I enjoy this. I enjoy talking to new people and learning things, and it's pretty cool. I definitely enjoy it.
Yeah, no, it is great. And sometimes the editing for podcast episodes can come in a little daunting, but there's something about it that I like too. And that's a really weird thing to say, but I do enjoy editing. And we've learned how to do videos and stuff because of the podcast as well, which has been fun.
Right. Kim's the jack of all trades.
I'm the Swiss Army knife.
Very good at editing and many other things. So, I can't read apparently sometimes, and when we're doing our podcast, I create words that aren't even, like, I'm not even sure where I get them from, but she does a really great job at editing those out or correcting me, so.
Thanks, Jen.
Yeah, it's good.
Her job is to make you look smart.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah, that's what we always say about our editors. You know, their job is to make us look good. It's nice you have a good one. Yeah, absolutely. So what's next for you guys? Do you have anything going on with your podcast coming up? Like, who do you have coming on? Like, what do you have? You know, give me the lowdown.
Well, I mean, other than we do have like some excitement with that, our show that we'll be doing in the next couple of weeks. But
as far as the podcast, though, we do have an abandoned bourbon distillery that's coming on the show, and we would love to have the opportunity to go there, but we're stuck here in Canada, and unless we really want to cross the border and quarantine for 2 weeks, which I don't think financially would be a good option. But there's an abandoned distillery in Kentucky a guy has purchased, and he's going to be completely renovating it, and there's a good reason to believe that it's haunted. So we're going to have that as an episode. And we're also going to be on a podcast called The Mystery Collection. But yeah, we're just kind of like popping on other people's podcasts, and it's fun. Like we're trying to get as many done right now as we can, just because we know when we're filming, we're not going to have the time to do it.
Right.
So we're trying to like catalog it to have it. So it's all spread out for every Friday. Yeah. But yeah, I think like part-time, if tourism picks up, I'll be doing little boat tours around Oak Island. And
what do you know about Oak Island? Have you like got
a lot?
Right, a lot.
She knows a lot.
Nice.
Yeah, I know. Jen and I actually did an Oak Island episode back in October, and we had the opportunity to do a tour on the island, which was great. So we got to meet a couple of people there. And then we also, I'm friends with one of the guys on the show. His name's Tony. And he actually is the one that has this boat tour company. So he goes around the island and does little tours and things like that. So we met him. We also met Jack on the show. We plan on at some point having Stephen Guptill on our Booze and Bourbon podcast. He is the surveyor on the show. So we've met some really great people from there. And we don't know if it's still up in the air or not because of tourism and the border being crossed, but we were invited to do the Halloween tour at Oak Island this year, which would be really fun. But no, I got obsessed with Oak Island when I was a little kid and always wished, when I was 10, that somebody would buy up the island and continue to work there. And then when the History Channel came on and said, oh yeah, well, we've got these two brothers, the Lagina brothers, I was like, are you kidding me? Oh my God, my dreams are coming true. And I only live 10 minutes away. And actually, where my husband and I keep our boat is called the Oak Island Marina, which is right across from the island. So every time we go to our boat, we're looking at the island and all of its mystery.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
I totally got into it too. What did you guys do on the episode?
We covered everything to do with paranormal. So we uncovered some stories that had never been heard before. But there's definitely something. Some people say that it's really good spirit activity, and other people are like, this is really dark.
So you guys think there's something paranormal associated with the Oak Island?
100%. It's probably one of the most haunted places that I can think of. Thinking of like all the different stories and the things that have happened. There's one guy on the island who was basically possessed, and his name's Dan Hensky. And one night he was using some dowsing rods and he was trying to find some water under the ground. And it was a full moon. It was just this, like, all the stars kind of collided. And he was being chased off the island by something that looked like a Grim Reaper, as well as hellhounds. And I think it was January or February. It was like really, really cold. And he stripped off all of his clothes. He took his belongings with him. He had a hard hat on for some reason, stripped off all of his clothes and actually swam to shore before there was a causeway there, and woke up completely naked on the floor of a stranger's house.
Sounds like he was taking drugs.
Right.
It's like he had a bad
trip.
Yeah. Wow, that's crazy. So what other stories have you heard about Oak Island as far as the paranormal goes?
I feel like there's quite a lot, like, in the sense of, well, I'm not sure if can we mention her, the medium that we used ourselves? No? Okay. Well, I mean, there's just like a lot of behind the scenes, I guess, even help with finding the supposed treasure, with spirits trying to either help and or deter people from finding it. So
did you guys use a medium to try to find the treasure?
Not exactly. No. We haven't, because we don't have the authority to do that. No. But there have been definitely lots of psychics that have gone on the island and put their 2 cents in. But there's, like, people died on the island when they were trying to search for the treasure. And the Restall family, they were overcome with gases. And so once they were down in this sinkhole, they really couldn't do anything. One guy went down there to retrieve the bodies, and he, like, put on a gas mask and all that kind of stuff and went down. And that night he spent on the island, and he was awoken by, he calls it like a beast, basically. And it was yelling at him and saying, like, it was supposed to be you. And when he got up in the morning, he had, like, these hand marks directly on his chest. So he was a man who didn't talk about the paranormal. And this was a story that kind of came out on his deathbed. And then there's also, like, massive balls of light, which people may attribute to UFOs. But David Blankenship, who lives on the island, has definitely seen a ball of light move in a really weird fashion, just kind of like hover over the trees, and then just completely disappear. And there's also, like, time slips have happened on the island. There's been film crews that get there and they look at their watch and they're like, whoa, my watch is acting really funny. And then they'll go to the other side of the island and they're like, oh, my watch actually started up again. And somebody else on the film crew heard the voice of her deceased mother come through on the headphones. So for me, as, like, a huge Oak Island person and also loving the paranormal, I seem to think that because these things are something religious, of religious value that is there. Because there's that good, there's the evil. just reason to believe that there's something very religious there.
Well, I mean, that's what people think about what's hidden there. I mean, people think that it could be what the cup there. What's it called? The
Ark of the Covenant.
yeah, but also like the cup that the
Oh.
the
What is that? Oh my God, I can't even think of it, what it is. Yeah, I know exactly.
yeah.
Holy Grail? The Holy Grail?
Yes, the Holy
Yeah.
Grail.
Yes.
People talk about the Holy Grail being buried there, and so that gives a some kind of religious thing going on.
Yeah, definitely. It's a
Yeah.
cool spot to visit.
Yeah. So
Very
do you,
much
do you
so.
really think that somebody would be able to engineer something like that as long as it was ago? Like that was a long time ago for somebody to go in and be like, I'm going to dig a hole here, put a whole bunch of traps and booby traps, and like, do you think that's even possible? Do you think someone would have been able to do that?
I think there was a lot of people that did it. I think it was somebody's creation, somebody who was exceptionally smart when it came to engineering. There's also a lot of elements of alchemy there. So that's why I think a lot of people think maybe it could be like a Baconian type thing. But I think that given the amount of vast work that's been done on the island, it probably would have taken at least 100 people and over a number of years to complete. Yeah.
Just like, yeah. I'll buy that.
She's heard so
Kim
many
is
of my
very much more into Oak Island. I'm into it, but not like she's told me many stories and things, so that's where I've learned all of my information mostly.
So Jen,
Yeah.
what are you into? Like, what's your thing?
Besides the paranormal, like just
Well, both. Like it sounds like Oak Island is her thing that within the paranormal world. I mean, that's what she sounds like she's an expert on. Like, do you
I'm just
have
like the weirdo that likes to be scared in general. So like I played with the Ouija board when I was a kid by myself. I was like
Nice.
just trying to like
Yeah.
scare my siblings, sometimes scaring myself at the same time, but like
you are
any opportunity
definitely
where I can test something out, like I would throw myself in. Like you already said, I was the trigger. Was that
you
it?
are the
Yes.
trigger object.
you were the
Yes.
trigger
So,
object at Waverly
I
Hills, Jen.
volunteer. Yes, I volunteer to be, that person, I guess. But
Yeah. So you guys
as a way of
Hills?
also proving to others and myself that it's a real thing. So that's why I guess part of the reason why, because then I can like for sure know that it's real.
Yeah. Yeah. So you guys went to Waverly Hills?
Yeah.
Oh, how
Yeah.
was that?
It was awesome. We so want to go back.
Yes.
It was really great. Jen was again the trigger object. Jen, you got to tell that
It was
story.
a fun time.
Oh, somebody.
I think
locked
she
up.
just disconnected there for a sec.
That's a great end.
I know. Her face is just like there. Oh.
She's kind of back. We'll remove her for a moment.
Yeah, so we went to Waverly Hills back in May of last year, and it was a great experience. I mean, I'd always seen so many ghost shows about it, so it was really cool to actually go there. And the place is huge. Like,
I'm back.
it's so hard to imagine how big a place is until you actually get there, but it's huge. So, I mean, every floor that we went to was like a different story and like different kind of paranormal activity. And we're going through the very dimly lit staircase, and we get to the 4th floor, and our tour guide's like, yeah, so on this floor, apparently there are shadow people. And then he swings open the door and he's like, see all the hatchet marks on the inside of this door? This door was unlocked. And he's like, see that 12 by 12 glass square that's broken from the middle of the door? He's like, teenagers were stuck in here trying to get out. The door wasn't locked. We were trying to get through the broken glass insert of the door. And they said that the shadow people were trying to keep them in there. So they had to use hatchets. They had to use whatever they could to try to break down the door. And finally, they were released. So I'm scared half to death. I'm like, oh my God, we're going on this floor. And the tour guide's like, do I have any volunteers to walk down to the end of the hallway by themselves? And Jen's like, me!
It's a horrible idea, actually, but at the time it seemed like a great one. So, yeah, I walked down this lovely dark hallway, and I do remember as I got closer to the end, the air got really thick, and I remember saying to him, like, because he asked me how I felt, and I said I felt like it's kind of hard to breathe. Like there's a lot of pressure down here. Meanwhile, I'm seeing like little flashes of things in the corner of my eye. So that obviously was a little distracting. And I was trying to like talk myself like, okay, you volunteered for this. Now you can't look like a chicken. So you have to complete the mission, turn around and come back. And when I turned around to walk back, he got me to put my arms out straight out to the side so that people could see how the shadow people were moving around me, to see like they obviously weren't breaking. You could still see them in front of me or behind me. And I think it was at that point he said, or somebody said, "Oh, do you see that one?" And everybody, I think Kim screamed, and a couple of people kind of made a little noise like, "Oh, what is that?" Because there was a super tall shadow figure beside me. Which I could feel, like, when somebody's standing super close to you and they're like leaning over your shoulder. It was that feeling. Like I could feel whatever right beside me. And of course my heart rate's like 300 beats per minute at that point, and I'm trying to like play it cool, but my feet are moving a lot quicker. I'm walking a lot faster back. Like I just need to get to the end of this. But yeah, so it was a really cool experience. There was definitely shadow people there.
Definitely. And Timmy also wanted to play with you.
But yeah, then the ghost kid that plays with the ball wanted to like, kick the ball around, because that's apparently a thing.
Did you guys see the ball roll around?
It rolled right underneath. Jen was wearing like a long skirt, and it rolled like right underneath of her skirt. And I was like, "Jen, is that a ball?" And she's like, "Yeah." And I'm like, "Oh my God, it's Timmy. He just wants to play."
Damn it,
yeah,
Timmy.
I did kick it really far away from me, so that I wasn't really in the mood to play with Timmy at that point. I think my shadow people experience was over. So yeah. It was cool though. It was a super cool experience for sure.
Nice. Yeah, I've always wanted to go there. I've heard great stories about that place. Where else have you guys gone that's, really cool like that?
There's nothing that's like really, really well known, I guess. Like I said, we went to this cemetery that was built in the late 1700s with a little tiny church, and we heard lots of knocks and bangs coming from inside the church, and we got a lot of really great EVPs. That was the first time too that Jen and I had ever really used an app on our phone. So,
what do you think about apps?
I'm pretty skeptical about it, because I'm like, really, like anything can happen with an app. It can be programmed like a game, like just random things could happen. So definitely very skeptical. But that time it made me question things. We were so scared the whole drive home. We had this app going. I forget what it's called, maybe like iOvulus. And random things would happen. We got close to the cemetery. We were in the car, and it said, park here. And then it said, accident. And I'm like, oh, great. Are we going to get in an accident? So we get out. I start doing some research and stuff on my phone, find out that like basically across the street, a guy had died in a fatal car accident. And I'm like, and that wasn't that long ago. So we go into the graveyard, do some sessions and everything. And as we're leaving, we close the gate and we're like, thank you for your time, stay here kind of thing. And the app said, come back. And I was like, wow, these are very intelligent responses that we're getting right now. So who's to say? Maybe the app works. Maybe it's all random. I don't know.
Yeah. I've used apps before too. And one of the important things when you use an app is make sure you turn the mic off, because some of those apps, they really like will sample what you're saying and somehow figure out something to say back to you. It's kind of weird.
That is very good advice.
That makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah. So what do you guys think about ghost boxes?
Well, do you mean like a spirit box kind of thing?
Yeah. So do you think they actually are able to communicate, or what's your opinions on those?
Jen, I'll let you go.
I mean, we definitely would use them and believe in them, I guess, as a way of communicating. So there's definitely enough backing and information that shows that they've worked in the past for other people. So
I think that goes to with like the whole energy thing. Like if a spirit is able to manipulate energy and is able to manipulate over white noise, then why not? Why can't it work?
Yeah. Right. Yeah. I have mixed feelings. Like I've definitely been part of spirit box sessions where things were dead on. Like they were just intelligently answering my questions, but I want more, and for me, I think that EVPs are kind of the holy grail for me. Like, I think those are the things that really can't be explained. What do you guys think?
Yeah, I think that, to some degree, it's up for interpretation what's coming through on those EVPs, because some people could just say, "Oh, that sounded like Peter," but it's like, no, it didn't. But if somebody says, "Oh, it sounds like Peter," then everybody else is going to believe it sounds like Peter.
Right.
But yeah, sometimes there's just undeniable evidence that comes through with an EVP.
Yeah. What do you think, Jen?
I agree. Like I feel like it's similar scenario. Like obviously you could question it a little bit and you could be persuaded to think that it sounded like something else just because someone else mentioned it. But I feel like there's been enough good evidence that's come from it too that would lead you to believe that it obviously works as well. So
Yeah. Well, since you guys are such experts on all the paranormal stuff,
Haha, that's a knee slapper.
expert.
so recently I've done a bunch of these little podcast things. It's something that's kind of been like a common thread through all of them has been this thought that we might be able to conjure spirits with our minds. So there was this experiment. I've been talking about this a lot. There was an experiment back in the 70s by some Canadians where they basically created a spirit named Philip. They came up with a fake name. They basically gave him a fake background and started talking to this fake spirit. And eventually they started interacting with it. And they were having like full blown conversations with the thing. So, what are your opinions on that? Do you think that we can actually conjure something with our minds?
Well, I definitely do. I can't say that I have, but I think that sort of aligns with me and my dreams. I know I kind of briefly touched on when my grandmother passed, but ever since that moment, and that would have been when I was about 21. So, 17 years ago. I've had many dreams about people who have recently passed or messages from people who have passed to give to their loved ones. And to me, it always happens like in that last REM cycle of my sleep. And it's something that I can remember every detail, like right down to the T. Like I could write you 3 pages about just this like 1-minute dream. So I think being able to quote unquote conjure something in your mind, I think there's something to be said about the human mind and spirits.
Mm-hmm.
So I would have to say, yeah, I think it can be possible.
I think like with the power of thinking and with the energy and that kind of thing, like it's similar. And it maybe going along with like what you were saying, Kim, with like your grandmother and that kind of thing. I know I've had that situation in the past where maybe I've thought about the person that was gone so much that like I may have conjured their spirit to come back a little bit, maybe because I wanted it to be there. So subconsciously, like, I was doing that as well. But I feel like it's possible when it comes to a loved one or somebody that's passed that you're very close with, that you can conjure that type of a spirit maybe around, or that person that's passed. But I don't know about like random ones. I'm not really sure about just conjuring up any old spirit, but one that like your local friendly ghost that you're friends with, that or whatever, maybe. But
yeah, the local deli guy, like
Yeah.
the local guy who works at the grocery store. But yeah, so like I just like that thought of us being able to conjure something, but I think that it could be more like by us wanting to connect to something, we're almost lowering our guard or dropping a shield or something, between us and something else.
Yeah.
Have you thought of that maybe?
I'm always one to overthink situations. So if there's like a super scary or sort of demonic situation that could potentially happen, I have to go through a major thought process about how I'm going to be able to deal with it, because anything to do with like dark energy scares me. So I mean, Jen and I both have rosary beads tattooed on us. So I think that having like the faith is definitely some form of protection. And then, good old sage, burn a little sage.
Sage
and
it up.
Some crystals too. Like maybe if you have some crystals in your pocket for extra protection. But I think there's a lot of people who want to play around with Ouija boards and want to play around with conjuring up spirits. And if they don't have the knowledge, then they could potentially get themselves into a nasty situation.
Yeah, because all those are just conduits to something else. So if you don't know how to work that correctly, it could cause problems. People on the live stream really wanted us to do Ouija board sessions almost constantly.
Yes.
And and we were a little apprehensive about that because, to be honest, we don't really do it that much. And Ouija boards are something that, I don't know, Corey said it really well. Like, if you're not there with your hands on the little thing there, you're not really experiencing it. You know, like, you almost have to be in the room and part of it to experience it. And
That's true.
And I'm kind of trying to tie all that in with the whole conjuring thing. So, like, when you use these things, you're trying so hard to talk to someone else. I've always wondered if that's what we're doing, is just kind of like lowering that wall between us when we use these things, whether it's like a spirit box or a Ouija board or any of these things that allow us to tap into something else. And I guess the big question is when you lower that wall, how do you bring it back up? How do you gain protection again from these other things? Do you guys have any suggestions on that?
I don't.
I being one that used to play with the Ouija board by herself because I was trying to prove that it did work. At that time, I don't think I was even thinking about how you would get, that wall back up. But I think at this point, like, there is, I guess, not really a method, but people would, ask that spirit or whatever they had brought in to, exit or leave. Like, I think that's really the only thing that I've ever seen anyone do that,
Well,
whether or not that worked, I don't know. But like, by
Right.
asking the spirit to leave, you don't really know if they actually did. Like, once you've opened that door, you've opened that door. So I don't know how you can close it on your own, but
Yeah. Heather say thank you and goodbye.
there you go.
Yeah.
And I did think of
Pretty
something
simple.
else that I use often, and sorry, there's going to be a black cat crossing here. I hope
Yeah,
nobody's
there he
that
goes.
superstitious.
Ernie.
Anyway, so one thing that I often do when I feel like anything negative kind of coming through, I do the white light. So like I just like close my eyes. I did a little bit of Reiki research, like using energy and using like the power of positive light and everything. And so if you envision yourself, or if you're driving, envision the white light like completely going all over you, going all over your car. I think that's a way to bring your vibration back up.
Right.
Yeah, that almost goes back to the whole conjuring things. That almost goes back to the power of thought. And
Yeah. Yeah, definitely.
that's kind of cool. You're gonna make me dig into the power of thought more when I get off of here. There was a movie called like The Secret. Did you guys see that?
Yes, I
Oh
have
yeah,
that.
I love that movie. And then What the Bleep Do We Know? Oh, that was another one I loved.
I didn't see that.
Oh yeah, you got to check that out. It's so cool. It's so
Okay.
cool. Yeah, it's really about the I know a lot of it's about the power of positivity and power of like good positive thoughts and throwing that out there into the world and getting that back. I mean that's kind of how I saw the whole thing. And you kind of just get back whatever you throw out into the world. Whether it's that like white light or whatever. So yeah, the power of thought's really really awesome. It's cool.
Karma. We don't want karma to come back as a bitch either.
No.
Yeah, most definitely. But yeah, this is awesome. So you guys basically have an awesome like year planned out. It sounds like. When are you gonna start filming?
The end of next week.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So we're kind of limited right now to staying within our province. We're really hopeful that New Brunswick, Prince Edward Island, and Nova Scotia, because we're in Nova Scotia, we're hopeful that the borders between those three provinces will open because we all have really minimal cases. I think right now here in Nova Scotia, we might have 2 cases, but we haven't had any new cases in over a week. So we're hopeful that we'll be able to go to New Brunswick and maybe Prince Edward Island as well. But we're going to Cape Breton Island, which is also here in Nova Scotia. So we're going to go do that at the end of this week. And we're heading to Yarmouth second week of July.
Awesome. Is
Good
this
old
like a
Yarmouth.
full blown production, like a regular TV show?
Yeah.
Wow, that's awesome. That's cool.
Yeah. We're really excited about it. Because like I said, when Jen and I first started this, we're like, we don't know anybody in film. We can't do a ghost hunting TV show. Like, there's no way. And now here we are. We have the opportunity to do it. And we couldn't be more excited.
Wow, that's so cool.
Yeah.
Busting out the Ghostbuster outfit. Can't wait.
Yeah. How did they find out about you? Like, how did you get like found out about?
Well, I have my ways.
Yes. Leave it
You
up
gotta-
to Kim.
Yeah. She's as she's like petting her black cat.
I have my ways.
Yeah.
No, actually, one of my friends, who was friends on Facebook with the film producer, just sent me all this post. He was looking for a couple of other people to add to his ghost hunting team. So we talked a little bit back and forth, and I sent him some videos and I sent him some audio clips of our podcast. And he's like, yeah, I think I'd like to meet you guys. So we met for coffee. We had a great time. And then by the time we left, we're like, we're doing this. This is happening.
Nice.
Yeah.
That's
So we
awesome.
didn't have to audition because we would have failed miserably. Would that have been the case?
Oh, wow. So
Yeah.
are you going to try to make this your full-time gig, you think? Like just
Oh
doing
my
this
God.
stuff?
That would be amazing. But I don't
Yeah.
think I can do that. But yeah, it would be awesome if it was.
Yeah.
Maybe we need
crossed.
to do like a whole East Coast, like blend you guys down there in Maine with us East Coasters here up in Canada. That would be
Yeah.
wicked.
Oh,
That'd be really
bum.
wicked.
Yeah, I'm in. I'm definitely into it for sure. Give me some bourbon, and I'm
Yes.
We have lots.
Absolutely.
Yes, we do. As you can see, there's a little bit behind me.
Yeah, you have.
And still in my
she's
glass.
like, yeah, I got some right here. Yeah, that's cool. That's really smart of you guys too, by the way, to like pick up the whole bourbon thing, and that way you can bring on sponsors and stuff onto your podcast, because that's something that we as podcasters really need, is like sponsors and help doing this, so you can keep doing it. And that was smart. That was a smart thing to do for sure.
Thanks. Well, we didn't know. We both like wine as well. So we didn't know really how we were going to start out. We knew we wanted to incorporate alcohol in there because it's just, that's us. Like, have a drink and let's chat. So our ideas were wine and witches or booze and bourbon. And as soon as Jen said booze and bourbon, I was like, oh my God, hands down, that is it. I love it. It's a play on words too.
Yeah, I love that too. So, so for people out there watching this and that want to get a hold of you guys and want to watch your podcast, where and how can they do that?
Jen, I'll leave this up to you because you do it every podcast episode.
Well, basically any app that provides or that you can listen to podcasts on, you can listen to us on. So from the little podcast app on your phone to Spotify, any of those ones. We're also obviously part of the ABV network, as Kim had mentioned. We're on Instagram, we're on Facebook, Booze and Bourbon the podcast. We dabble with YouTube occasionally, so we're on there as well.
Yeah. So all of our episodes.
And we have a Patreon page.
Patreon page. And how
Sorry,
can they
yeah,
find
yes.
you on Patreon? Just Booze and Bourbon?
Yeah.
Yes.
Awesome.
Yeah. And people sometimes get confused when they're looking for us on Instagram, but it's Booze and Bourbon spelled out. So BOOSAND Bourbon.
Gotcha. Well, that's awesome. All right.
Yeah.
Well, thank you very much, ladies, for coming on here and hanging out with me. It's really great to be able to put a face to your name because I've just seen you on Facebook. So, yeah, this was fun. I really appreciate it.
Well, Bill, we
Thank
can't wait
you.
to have you on the show.
Yeah.
Yeah. It'll be my turn to get asked all kinds of crazy questions, but I'm ready. I'm definitely ready.
I'm sure you are.
Good.
All right, ladies. Well, thank you very much, and y'all have a good afternoon.
Thanks,
Thank
you too,
you.
Bill. Bye.
You too.
Bye-bye.
See you.